Hello and welcome to the Sonic Hacking Contest 2026 announcement video. My name is Naoto. I run the place. I'm really excited to share what we've got in store for you this year, but first, I need to address the elephant in the room. The runtime on this video is insane. And trust me, it's not for lack of trying. We wanted to keep the video as concise as possible for ease of reference. But so much is changing this year that we still ended up totally eclipsing the length of previous announcements. So here's what we did. We've divided this video up into distinct chapters to make it easier to find any information you might be looking for. I would still recommend watching the whole thing if you plan on participating this year, but if you're just looking for event dates and information on media panel coverage, you can totally skip to those sections, it's no big deal. I'm also going to be handing off voiceover duties to other volunteers from the staff team throughout the presentation, just to make sure that I still have a voice by the end of this thing. Without further ado, let's get into it. During last year's contest, many people raised concerns that the standard of quality control has become too lax, and we totally agree. Going into this year, it was clear from the start that we needed to make identifying and addressing the issues that led to this our top priority. The first issue we identified was that there were some internal misunderstandings about the level of scrutiny we need to exercise when performing quality control. I'm happy to report that has been thoroughly addressed and should not be an issue going forward. The second issue has to do with the way that quality control requirements for ROM hacks and modern 2D mods have historically been written. In previous years, the quality control guidelines for both categories were presented as a checklist of sorts. Basically, if you met a minimum number of arbitrarily grouped requirements, your entry was more than likely going to be accepted. This format is, to put it mildly, very flawed. Not only does it bar competent, smaller-scale mods from entering the contest, it also makes it easier for authors of lower-quality submissions to cry foul at a rejection if they technically check all of the boxes. Basically, we wrote ourselves into a corner, and had to comply with the loophole that we created. To solve this, we've opted to rewrite the guidelines for these categories in an example-based fashion. This is actually how the 3D category has been doing QC for ages now, and it's worked out great for them. By adopting this format across the board, we can better ensure that all entries meet or exceed a consistent standard of quality. Additionally, we've tightened up cross-category submission guidelines and quality control requirements as well. Going forward, all submissions must be playable in some capacity. We will no longer be accepting cutscene-only entries or tech demos that feature a minimal degree of interactivity. Furthermore, all entries need to be relatively stable. They should not be error-prone to the point of disrupting normal gameplay with consistent crashes that are difficult or impossible to avoid. And last, but certainly not least, the judges of each category reserve the right to reject any entry if a supermajority, that's 2/3, of them agree that it does not offer enough value outside the written QC guidelines. We believe these additions will allow us to avoid the pitfalls of previous contests and, in turn, deliver a better experience to everyone. Alright, the next thing we need to talk about is, hold on, let me just check here. We need to talk about AI. Yeah. None of this at the contest, please. To clarify, we haven't picked up on any AI usage in previous years, and we don't suspect that will change much this year. In many ways, making a mod for an existing game is insulated from AI slopification. The knowledge is often so niche and specialized that vibe coders and the like have their interests better served by starting from scratch, for better or worse. With that being said, we'd rather be proactive about this and put a policy in place to make sure that AI usage remains as limited as possible. Right off the bat, use of AI-authored assets, such as generated images, music, or other audiovisual elements, is explicitly prohibited. This should come as no surprise. We're a competition giving out awards and evaluating entries based on human effort and artistry. However, We will concede that there are emerging use cases for AI-based tools in the context of development, reverse engineering, debugging, and even creative software for which the term AI authored is not an accurate descriptor. In fact, let's do a lightning round. Smart smoothing, colorization, tone removal, pose scanning, generating chord progressions, audio processing, vocal isolation, an AI assistant called Gopher for some reason, language translation, Vocaloid voice banks, Copilot. I don't think I'm allowed to show that one. Google search. Are you frozen rice? It's everywhere, which, as I'm sure you've guessed, would make it a real challenge to just ban anything that uses neural networks under the hood for a handful of features, especially when the end result is not fully generative. This is to say nothing of how the term AI has been slapped onto software features after the fact as a marketing buzzword, even if it has nothing to do with AI. This is a bit of an extreme example, but there is no way in hell that this rice cooker has AI in it, and yet it has a badge that proudly displays AI rice! I'm losing my shit! In the end, we decided that we can't outline a one-size-fits-all policy that remains reasonable, practical, and enforceable. So instead, we're going to be evaluating AI usage on a case-by-case basis. Any entrant that utilizes AI-based tools during development must disclose that they have done so thoroughly and honestly. Based on the extent to which AI was used, judges will decide whether or not an entry is eligible to participate. If the usage of AI tools is particularly heavy, or the entry contains AI-assisted assets or code, the contents of the disclosure will be made publicly visible, and the entry will be marked with a badge to indicate that AI was used during development. I want to acknowledge that this policy is unlikely to satisfy everyone. Those who are heavily against AI might critique that we're normalizing its usage by putting this policy in place. Those who are pro-AI might be upset with anything less than an unconditional surrender to the technology, and be angry that we're putting this at our discretion at all. Even those with more nuanced or neutral opinions on this may take issue with how fuzzy the line is, and raise concerns about our ability to be discerning, especially given the aforementioned quality control issues of last year. All of these points, except for that second one, are completely fair concerns to have, and they're all things that we discussed and considered when laying this out as well. The decision to implement this policy was not taken lightly, and it certainly would have been easier in the short term to just plug our ears, close our eyes, and not address AI usage until after it's done damage to the contest. It would certainly be more in character for us to take that approach, but choosing to be reactive always has its price, and we don't believe that it's one that we can afford. So yes, I know it's a big ask, but please trust that under this policy we will keep the playing field as level as possible for all entrants. With that out of the way, there's one last thing I want to cover in this section: our update policy. For the previous two contests, we've only allowed entrants to update their entries after the deadline if they've discovered a game-breaking bug. That portion of the policy is generally going to remain the same, but the grace period to reach out to us and provide a patch has been set to a strict limit of 72 hours after submissions close. Judges also reserve the right to request logs or additional information about the update patch to ensure that nothing else has changed between that and the originally submitted build. There is, however, one more important policy change that we've decided to make in regards to updates. We will no longer be policing off-site updates after the submission deadline or during the contest period. In hindsight, the old policy of barring entrants from updating their projects was a barbaric overreach of authority that hurt entrants more than it strengthened the integrity of the contest. Of course, judges are still expected to evaluate the version that was submitted to the contest by the bug fix deadline, but entrants are free to push updates outside the entry pages or official Discord server as they see fit. Also, I know I probably don't need to say this, but if your entry is hosted entirely off-site, this is not a license to abuse the critical bug fix grace period. If you want to push a fix for a severe bug, you are still expected to check in with us, and if we don't deem it severe enough to warrant a patch, you need to be willing to provide us with the version of the mod that you submitted to the contest originally. Okay, I think that's all for this section. Quite a bit of information, but the TLDL is up on screen if you want the key points summarized. Thanks for bearing with me. Let's move on. So here's a fun behind-the-scenes fact for all of you that I wish I had been aware of before I signed up to do this much voiceover. Turns out doing quality voiceover requires a ton of water. I am not even exaggerating when I say that I have gone through an entire 40-pack of 16.9 fluid-ounce water bottles in the recording of everything up to this section that you are listening to right now. So, yeah. Long story short, I'm completely out of bottled water and need to go get some more. So, in the meantime, I'm gonna hand the presentation over to Sora while I go get my hydration situation figured out. Take it away, man.
Hello SHC, I'm Sora, aka Scrap Sora, and before you say who, don't worry, I made a ROM hack once, I'm qualified. Today, we're going to be talking about the changes of trophies and awards that'll debut in the 2026 contest year. But before we get to that, let's start with a little history. In 2017, Sonic Hacking Contest was split into two events. The contest, which served as the main venue, and the expo, which was a showcase venue with relaxed quality control. These are their stories. While the split was well-intentioned, the downside of it was that expo entries were seen as, well, lower quality than those in the main contest. And while that was never truly the case for all entries, there was some truth to that. The bar for quality control was more lenient for expo entries, and it wasn't uncommon for contest submissions that didn't meet its quality control to be moved to the expo if outright rejection didn't seem fair. As a result, expo entries were often overlooked for the duration of its existence by media panelists and the public. The 2024 contest attempted to rectify this by just presenting expo entries alongside the main contest entries, and the terminology was changed from contest and expo to judged and unjudged. Quality standards for both entry types were also equalized to hopefully eliminate the perception that expo entries were lower quality than the contest entries. However, even though there has been some improvement in the way unjudged entries are viewed, the perception that they're the lesser of the two categories has not gone away. While part of that perception is stigma from past contests, another part of the reason appears to be that, with the limited voting period, judged entries are greatly prioritized by the panelists and, in turn, by the community. There's a sort of built-in sense of importance for the judged entries to be checked out first and unjudged entries to be saved for later, but most of the time, later never comes. To fix this, we are introducing two more changes to further integrate the entries. Firstly, going forward, unjudged entries will be made eligible to receive community trophies. And secondly, the judged/unjudged tags, as well as the filter on the entry gallery, will be made internal only, since the first change makes it irrelevant for anyone but judges to see anyway. These changes should help get more eyes on unjudged entries, and additionally create a more diverse, interesting, and engaging competitive landscape for all entrants going forward. Speaking of trophies, we've also noticed in recent years that the judges and community opinions don't diverge too much for a lot of the trophies we give out, which means that we're sometimes giving out two of basically the same trophy to a single winner, which seems silly. As such, we've decided to consolidate most trophies to be exclusively awarded by the community. How many? Well, this many. That's right, the only trophies that judges will still give out are first, second, and third place. And we've also decided to rebrand them with members of the Chaotix to avoid confusion with the community podium, which is still being represented by Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. On top of this, we've also gone through the existing trophies and noticed that many of them are either redundant, almost never awarded, just generally in need of a rework, or would be better suited to a new award type altogether. But we'd never do something like that, right? Well, more on that later. So after consolidation, this is what we ended up with. The Storybook Trophy is now awarded for Best Narrative Execution rather than Best Cutscenes. And we added a new award for the most innovative entry in the form of the Metal Sonic Trophy. So, in summary, each category will now award 16 different trophies that are mostly voted on by the community rather than the judges. Any trophy that you don't see on screen was either removed or possibly changed into something else. So, at this point, you may or may not be wondering, if the judges are only giving out like 3 awards, is there much of a point to keeping them around? Wait, am I getting removed? Sorry, no. We still have plenty of things to do, like run quality control, write evaluations for judged entries, and vote on the judged podium trophies. But that aside, judges will also be giving out an entirely new class of rewards to judged entries. Introducing medals. Medals are a brand new award type being added to this year's contest that are designed to more broadly honor the accomplishments of judged entries. Unlike trophies, where there is usually only one winner, medals are awarded to every entry that a supermajority of judges agree meets the criteria. So, basically every judged entry that we believe deserves a certain medal will be given one, with no restrictions placed on the number of medals given out. There are a couple reasons we've decided to introduce a new award type like this. One major reason was that the practice of choosing a single winner didn't align with the criteria of some trophies all that well. For example, if several entrants release a decompilation or port of a game to another platform, is it really fair to give only one of them the distinction of the Technical Achievement Award? We think it's better that everyone who invests that level of effort to be acknowledged and honored, not just the one that picked the more recognizable base game. Medals also lessen the chance of so-called pity awards being given out, or awards that entries get by being the only competition for it. In some years, there have been maybe 1 or 2 entries that attempted the criteria for, say, the Rivals Trophy. In these cases, even if the execution was questionable, it was still likely to take home the award anyway, which kinda undermines the prestige and sense and accomplishment that's ideally part of receiving a Sonic Hacking Contest trophy. Most of the trophies that were scrapped a couple minutes ago were really just adapted into a medal of some kind, with a few being reworked or rethemed further for better clarity. We're also introducing a couple medals with brand new criteria, some of which are inspired by previously retired trophies. Some are serious and will likely stick around as part of the core set used for future years, but others are completely unserious and may not return in future years, so get creative with your entries if you want to get them. Last but not least, I would like to talk about a change we're making to honorable mentions. In addition to honorable mentions being awarded to entries that come close to receiving a trophy, judges may also nominate any entry, judged or unjudged, to receive an honorable mention for achievements that fall outside the established award set. This change will allow us to better acknowledge outstanding entries that achieve more than we can anticipate with the base medal set, while also serving as supplemental awards for unjudged entries since they can't receive medals. The process for awarding this type of honorable mention is a little less formal and requires a discussion among category judges rather than just a vote, but if a majority of judges in the entry's category sign off on it, the entry will receive the honorable mention. And with that, is basically all the information for this section. My whole spiel is now more or less summarized up on screen for your convenience. Anyway, it's been real chat, but I'm going to turn this back over to Naoto if he's back from getting water, so he can talk about the changes we've made to the voting system this year, and I can get back to not working on another ROM hack, so I'll see you later, Procrastination Nation.
Alright, I'm back and fully stocked up on water for the next, lifetime or two. As you have no doubt deduced from the title of this section, we're going to be making a couple changes to the voting system this year. Now, medals, of course, require their own voting tally due to how they're awarded, so this section is going to apply specifically to voting for trophies. If you're not deeply familiar with voting systems, the type of system we have now is called first past the post, and the way it works is dead simple. Whoever gets the most votes wins. That's it. Great, right?
No!
See, the major issue with this system is it ends up collapsing a lot of the nuance and opinions down to a single value, and when there are more than 2 options to choose from, as there often are in the Sonic hacking contest, it can create situations where an option can win with a very small percentage of the vote. For example, if we have, let's say, 5 entries competing for a hypothetical trophy, one of them could win that trophy with 22% of the vote, despite the fact that a majority of people voted differently. Now, does that automatically mean that the majority of people will be dissatisfied and angry with the results? No, hopefully not. But we don't even know if one ended up winning was in their top 3. All we asked is that they picked their favorite, so we lost the nuance. As such, our current voting system is not guaranteed to be reflective of what the community wants, and that's troubling. We recognize that if we're going to be awarding most trophies based on the community vote alone, we needed a system that was better capturing the nuance, but still easy to understand. After some discussion, we realized we already solved this problem for one particular set of trophies: the podium. So, starting this year, voting for trophies will move to a ranked choice system. Under this system, attendees will rank their top 3 picks for each trophy. The top pick will get 3 points, the second 2 points, and the third pick 1 point. Whichever entry has the greatest number of points after the voting period closes will win the trophy, and the runner-ups will receive honorable mentions instead. We believe this will do a better job of reflecting the community's opinions whilst remaining easy to understand, as was our goal. At this point, some of you might be asking why we aren't going for a rated choice system instead. After all, aren't those mathematically superior to ranked choice? And to you I would say, I also watch Veritas. To answer the question, you would be correct that a rated choice system is generally better in a political context. But this isn't an election. It's a mod contest. The edge cases where a ranked choice system falls apart are exceedingly rare, and the stakes simply are not high enough here for them to matter much. Additionally, a rated choice or approval-based system may also lead voters to be overly generous and give inflated ratings to every entry they believe qualifies for a trophy, which would actually be worse at capturing nuance than the old system. Not to mention, it would make the process of voting take forever. Seriously, if you had to rate every entry in every category for each individual trophy, that might be 2 to 3 hours of paperwork. It would be absurd to expect anyone to cast a vote at that point. So, yeah, it has to be a ranked choice to keep things reasonable and avoid friction. And honestly, we're fine with that. It's still a substantial improvement over what came before, and should make things a lot more interesting in years to come. And believe it or not, that's all for this section. This was a really short one, and honestly, I'm not even sure if we need a summary, but I'll put something up on screen. Without further ado, I would like to hand the mic over to Donnie so that he can talk about the last major shakeup for this year's contest, the Open Media Panel.
Hi. It isn't often that I communicate with you through here, I know. Nevertheless, I do hope you'll stick with me with this part of the announcement, as some context and background info is going to be needed so you all have full transparency in regards to what is going on. So, in case you don't know me, let me first begin by introducing myself. I'm Donnie, aka SSF 1991. I've been a part of the Sonic Hacking Contest since 2012, believe it or not. I've been a regular judge for over 10 years, and I've also been media panel manager for at least a few years now. I'm the one that gets the schedule organized by finding out streamer availability and what times they wish to have. This actually begins 2 months before contest week, so it's usually among the first things we do to prepare for the contest every year. Eventually we get the schedule organized, Cinesuit puts it up on the main site, and it's ready for your viewing when the time comes. Unfortunately, things have gotten rather dire with the media panel in its current state. What may seem fine on the surface has been not good behind the scenes, to put it politely. With each passing year, we've had more and more streamers either cut back on streaming during contest week or pull out entirely, creating larger gaps of nothing in the schedule. I do want to note we don't mind having small gaps here and there, but I'm not kidding when I say that we were very close to having a very barren schedule last year, and the worst in over a decade. Now, we've been trying to expand the number of media panelists, including last year, but it has been increasingly difficult because for every media panelist we bring on, 2 more end up leaving. So, despite our best efforts, the media panel has still been gradually shrinking. Now, it's also not uncommon for at least a third of the media panelists to be too busy to participate. And unfortunately, we've come to realize that actually getting communication and engagement from our media panel is difficult. Now, I do want to be clear that no one is to blame for this, and I do not want to see any angry mobs harassing them. Our media panelists have busy lives outside of the contest, and there aren't any contracts involved where they absolutely have to stream. Also, I'm one of the very few people on the contest staff that the media panelists know, due in large part to me being the one that usually contacts them yearly, and also because quite a few of them know me outside of the contest. So it's completely understandable why this is going on. But it does present a lot of challenges with actually getting the media panel schedule organized. Sadly, last year was basically the climax of it all, where all the problems I spoke of became so bad that we just can't ignore it anymore. We don't want to rock the boat too much, but the media panel as it has been for 13 years is just no longer sustainable. Thankfully, the rest of the staff came up with a solution. We still plan to feature the media panelists we've had on board our media panel for years, as usual. However, there is no longer going to be a schedule that they have to abide by. This means that streamers will have more freedom to stream during contest week as much as they want and whenever they want without restrictions. We also hope this eases the pressure of our media panelists, both in regards to streaming and in regards to communication. In other words, it means that they don't have to worry about hearing from me to request their times anymore, and it also means that a large part of my contest workload will be gone, freeing me up to do other things for the contest. In fact, as of this year, I will be a head judge for the first time. Of course, we will promote our media panelists like we always have, so you're aware when they're streaming entries. However, this new media panel will not be limited to the content creators we've been affiliated with for years. Starting this year, we will also be promoting content creators streaming entries during contest week that are not directly associated with the media panel at all. The only requirement is that you promote your stream on social media with the hashtag SHC2026Live so we can see it. If you manage to pass our vetting and curation process, then we'll highlight your stream on social media. If that doesn't sound like much, that's understandable. In fact, we agree, and we've been working behind the scenes to figure out other ways to promote streams, including possibly a curated stream playlist on the site. However, we're still working out whether something like that is even possible to implement, so we can't really share much more in that regard. That said, we will keep you updated on that front as we get closer to contest week, so stay tuned. So, in general, what does this mean for you? Ultimately, it depends on how much you've relied on the media panel schedule. I do really want to make it clear that the media panelists we've had for years are still going to be around, and you still will be able to watch them like usual. There just won't be restrictions from a schedule anymore, and they won't be all that there is to offer now. However, we also want to make it clear that your feedback is very much appreciated and even needed. Not only is this the first major change to the media panel in 13 years, odds are high that this fresh coat of paint will have some hiccups. So, we highly recommend you let us know how you all feel about this. If you all like the idea, and a few years of polish and adjustments to the overhaul work out well, maybe we can migrate over to this hashtag system completely. We'll see, but it's not set in stone at this current time. For now, I want to salute our current and former media panelists for their cooperation and trust in us. Sonic Hacking Contest would not have gotten this far if it weren't for our media panelists spreading the word and putting a spotlight on our entrance. So thank you all so much. This is a new era for the media panel as a whole, and I really hope you're all looking forward to it. And with that, that's all from me. There is still plenty more to share with you about this year's contest though, so I will now turn the reins back to Naoto so he can continue with the announcements. Take it away.
Thank you, Donnie. Before we move on, I would like to make mention of one final change that is somewhat related to opening up the media panel. In the past, judges have been permitted to assist or even co-host media panelists on their streams. In fact, Donnie himself has been a regular guest of Johnny's live streams for practically every year that he did live coverage of the event. However, it appears at some point in recent memory, it was internally codified that judges themselves are not allowed to stream as members of the media panel. This is puzzling, to say the least, because if allowing judges to stream during contest week is some kind of integrity issue, they really shouldn't be allowed to co-host someone else's stream either. Especially seeing as media panelists are not under any obligation to bite their tongue when sharing opinions the way judges are by their code of conduct. If it's not obvious, we think this is ass backwards, so we're reversing that decision. Judges will be allowed to stream as members of the media panel if they desire to. So you might see some familiar faces running streams this year. And with that, I think that's a wrap. Here's the summary for this section, and now, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Let's not beat around the bush any further. The 2026 annual Sonic Hacking Contest will run from October 3rd to October 11th of this year. Submissions will be due by September 6th. We really felt that the scheduling of last year's event was basically perfect at avoiding overlap with other important events like Sage or game releases from Sega. But these dates are still subject to change if anything else comes up, so for the latest information on event scheduling, policy updates, news, and any other information related to Sonic Hacking Contest or its spin-off events, be sure to check our website at shc.zone. Before we go, I would like to extend a huge thank you to ItsEasyActually, who retired from his position as a head judge of the 3D category earlier this year. Before he left, he took the time to draft many of the proposals that directly inspired the revitalized format for this year's contest. Of course, we had to alter and adapt a lot of what he proposed to something the current staff could find some common ground on, but he laid the foundation and started the conversation, and that's worthy of acknowledgement and gratitude. Sinosu also deserves thanks for inspiring the introduction of medals, the expansion of honorable mentions, and the new ranked choice voting system as well. And I think that's just about everything. We've tightened up quality control and submission guidelines to keep low-quality entries and AI slop out of the event. We've reinvented the award system by improving voting, consolidating trophies, introducing medals, and expanding honorable mentions. And we've opened up the media panel to operate on a schedule-free system where even outside streamers have a chance to be featured. Summarized like that, it probably doesn't sound like much, but this is probably the single largest set of changes to hit the contest since it started nearly 24 years ago. I recognize that making this many changes could be seen as risky, ill-advised even, especially when paired with the third leadership change in as many years. But I believe, for this contest to not only survive but thrive, we must be willing to push forward for the good of our entrants, not sit still because it's what's comfortable and familiar. The future of the Sonic Hacking Contest is looking bright, and I can't wait to see what all of you have cooked up this year. So without further ado, ready, set, procrastinate.